Greetings, this is Baron West with another video for Gundam Battle Operation 2. The topic today is the iconic Vulcan, and more specifically, which ones are the best in the game and why. Vulcans are a very effective sub-weapon in Battle Operation 2 because units that have them can boost while firing them, so it's useful while advancing, retreating, strafing, etc. The list is only going to focus on Vulcans and only on sub-weapons. So even though Akai's main weapon is technically a Vulcan, because it's not a sub-weapon, it's going to be excluded. And sub-weapons that are machine guns that are handheld are going to be excluded. What's important to note about this list is lots of units actually share the same type of Vulcan. At the bottom of the list, we have the 60-round Vulcans like Gun Cannon Detector, Zero Shiki, and Rick Diaz. The official name for this is the Head Vulcan Unit Modified. These Vulcans have a lot of shots, so they can do a good amount of cumulative damage, but they take 50 hits to stun. So, because their firing rate isn't really exceptional, it's going to take a while to use them as a stunning combo. It's good for damage, but it's not effective to stun people. At number 9, it's Double Zeta's late model Vulcan. This 80-round Vulcan isn't unique to Double Zeta. It's also used by Gelgoog Jaeger, Kampfer, and Nemo, to name a few. It stuns in 50 hits. It's the same as the previously mentioned Vulcan, it simply has a higher round count. And its advantages and disadvantages are pretty much the same. It can do good damage, but it is not really effective at stunning, but it's vastly superior to your run-of-the-mill Gundam 30 count Vulcan. Number 8 is Zaku FS's quadruple head-mounted Vulcan. It has 60 rounds, but because it's 2 shots per clip, it only has 30 shots. And it takes 25 of those shots to stun. It's not the best at hitting high-speed targets, but boosting towards a stationary or unsuspecting opponent, you can set up a stun for a melee combo. The reason why it's better than the 80-round Vulcan that Double Zeta and Gelgoog Jaeger use is because it stuns much faster. Oftentimes in combat, you might catch somebody off guard, or you might try to support one of your allies. It'll take a while for the late model Vulcan to actually stun. But the Zaku FS's quadruple head-mounted Vulcan, both a general and raid type, they are very effective at stunning quickly. If you're playing against an opponent who's moving around a lot, it's unlikely to get the stun, and thus it's number 8. Number 7 is Gabthay's single gun Vulcan. Gabthay isn't actually known for having a strong Vulcan by most players, but it does possess the highest rate of fire in the game. It's not just Gabthay, it's actually shared with several other units have this very high Vulcan rate of fire, and Gabthay stuns in about 34 hits. It's very good at catching unsuspecting opponents off guard, but it's not great at moving opponents. But this is definitely far more effective than the previous Vulcans because it stuns much faster, and it does a decent amount of damage. Number 6 is the twin chest machine gun used by the Blue Destiny units 1, 2, and 3. It has very high range at 200 meters, which is the maximum range that a Vulcan in this game has, and it takes 25 hits to stun. What separates it from Vulcans rated lower than it is that it fires its payload very quickly. So while it isn't great at hitting moving opponents, It will very quickly stun, so catching someone off guard and setting them up for a combo, it's pretty easy to do. Number 5 is the Vulcan pod system used by Gundam Mark II and Barzum. This is an extremely powerful Vulcan. It has the highest ammo capacity of any Vulcan in the game at an absurd 90 shots. It has 180 meters of range, good damage, and it's got the highest rate of fire. In terms of boost shooting, it's extremely good. It can literally kill people by itself. But the reason why it's not rated higher is that it has low stun. It takes 50 hits to stun, and all of the Vulcans rated above it will stun much faster than this Vulcan, even with its high rate of fire. So it does very decent damage over the course of time, but there have been cases where I've seen this against other Vulcans and not do so well. I've actually seen somebody use a 500 Blue Destiny 2 go against a Mark II and actually stun the Mark II, even though they were both using the Vulcans at the same time. The reason why Mark II's Vulcan is better, despite the fact that BD 1, 2, and 3, they're stun faster, is because it just does so much damage by itself, and it's much better for boost shooting. Against another Vulcan that has higher stun, it will get stunned fairly quickly. I mean, 50 shots, even with that high rate of fire, is a lot. So, still, great weapon. It's one of the reasons why Mark II is so cheap. So, number 4 is...
All human creatures are to be exterminated. Leave no survivors. Open fire!
So number 4 is Gigan's coaxial machine gun and head-mounted Vulcan. Unlike the 30-round Vulcans rated below it, it stuns in 17 hits, and it is very good at hitting moving targets. That's important at high levels of play because a lot of times your opponent's not going to stay still for you. And even if they're good at moving, or if it's a unit that has a force injector, Gigan's coaxial machine gun can stun them fairly well. Which is ironic considering it's a unit that has fairly weak melee. Number 3 is Easy 8 and Easy 8 Weapon Racks Head and Chest Vulcan. Anybody who saw the 8th MS team saw Shiro slide down the side of this building and use this crazy Vulcan spray against Norris Packard. And when you play the game, it's kind of underwhelming how normal looking it is in Battle Operation Part 2. But despite the fact that it's not as flashy as the anime version, this Vulcan is extremely powerful. It has 200 range and it stuns in 20 hits. It's very good against moving targets, and it sets up Easy 8's powerful melee nicely. Even though it has less stun than Gigan's coaxial unit, it's better because of the range. It's just that range makes a huge difference. 50 meters, it counts a lot in this game. Number 2 may come as a surprise to a lot of players. Number 2 is GM Guard Custom shoulder-mounted twin machine gun. Most players using Guard Custom completely ignore this weapon, and they just use the Guardian Shield. But Guard Custom's shoulder Vulcan stuns faster than any other Vulcan in the game. Only 10 shots of this will stun an opponent and open them up for Guard Custom's Beam Dagger combo. And considering that Guard Custom only has 30 shots, it's extremely easy to stun even a moving opponent. This is easily the most underrated Vulcan in the game, and debatably the most dangerous due to how fast it can stun. Number one is not going to come as a surprise to anybody. It's the head-mounted Vulcan Type 2. This Vulcan is used by 3 units: GB02 Beam Bazooka, GB02 MLRS, and Full Armor Double Zeta. At 200 meters, it has the highest range, it has high attack power, it has a huge 60 rounds, it only takes 17 hits to stun, and it has the highest rate of fire. Pound for pound, this is the strongest Vulcan in the game, hands down. Even though it's a sub-weapon, it's more powerful than a lot of the machine guns used by lower level units. I remember pulling GPO2 in a roll and facing off against a beam bazooka. So despite the fact that I had the bullpup equip and I was firing at my opponent's leg, I still got stunned first because GPO2's Vulcan just stunned me and then he just comboed me and slaughtered me. At which case I was a little bit disillusioned with GPO1 considering how awesome a unit it was in Stardust Memories, but in this game it was very disappointing that my opponent was able to overwhelm me that easily. For anybody going against the head-mounted Vulcan Type 2, you should just consider this as a main weapon. Don't even think of it as a sub-weapon because it's literally that strong. Which unit it's the best on, I mean, that's debatable for your playstyle. You could argue that the supports do better with it because they have more attack power, but Beam Bazooka has the most thrust, so he's better at boost shooting with it than the other 2 units. So that concludes the list of the top 10 Vulcans. There is an honorable mention on this list, and that is GM Sniper 2 White Dingo. He has a normal Vulcan. He just has a simple 30-shot Vulcan, and it doesn't have any remarkable stun, but what separates it from the other Vulcans is it does a lot of damage. It does more damage than any of the other 30-round Vulcans, and I believe it may be the most damaging Vulcan in the game. If it's not actually the most damaging Vulcan in the game, it's very, very close to it.